If you don't promote it, if you don't talk about it, if you're not your biggest cheerleader, how do you expect anybody else is going to? Hi, my name's Steve Kidd. I'm a third generation minister, international best-selling author of 41 books and counting. Over the course of the last 40 years in business, I've had the amazingly wonderful privilege of working with more than 5,000 authors, helping them in the process of writing, publishing, marketing their books to bestseller, and everything that goes beyond that. And what I'm really here to do is to help you be truly visible, to architect for you, if you will, the whole plan for your visibility. What are you going to do to rise above the crowd? What are you going to do to be seen? And then how are you promoting that on a regular basis so that you absolutely can and will be known, seen, and even expected as the person who is the expert that you absolutely are. What is your plan for that? You see, what we promote is what gets promoted. Or as I said it in the thing, what we promote promotes. What we focus on grows. What we nurture and water and feed, those are the things that grow. A little baby, let's just use them as an example, okay? And whether you're talking about a baby human or a baby animal or whatever, a little baby needs someone to be responsible for, taking care of, and regularly feeding them. Okay, they know to be able to, for example, with a human baby, they know to cry when they're hungry or any of their other needs, okay? But they don't, first of all, really understand the concept of food. They understand the concept of being hungry and having that hungry spot no longer be there. But they don't really understand the concept, and it doesn't matter whether they're on bottles or breastfed. They just know this is a need that I have, and that's true. Across the board with all of them, and with any animal, they experience that same kind of situation. Certain animals, advance into self-reliance quicker than others. Little baby, like you'll see little baby calves and little baby deers that are standing up and walking within moments after their birth, versus a human who, maybe as much as a year or even 2 years before they take even their first step, just depending on, that child. Or, like I always used to tease with my daughter Amber, I think she was 5 before she walked, because as soon as she got up, she just started running, darting from here to there. And she discovered that if she ran real quick from this chair to that couch, that she could make it and not fall down. And so for the longest time, it was just like, that's that kind of thing. What we promote is what promotes. What we focus on is what grows. What we invest time in is what, is the thing that really gets known. But unfortunately, what we often invest our time in is all of the preparation kind of things, all the things that get us set up. It's like, for example, and I'm going to stick with the baby analogy. You can watch little children and you can see them, the gears turning in their mind. They don't completely get it, but they're taking it in. They're looking at that thing that, mommy is doing, usually. I mean, sometimes daddy or their older sibling. But they look at that thing that person's doing and they're intrigued by it. And they watch it and they watch it and they study it. And then, whether they get themselves up or somebody helps them up, maybe somebody's got them by the hands and they start doing that kind of thing. There's a lot of time that they spend just really taking the world in, seeing a lot of stuff. I mean, think of all the things in, like, say, for example, the first 5 years of our life that we learn and take in and know and grow and do and all of those kind of things. So many of those. but it only comes from the doing. That little baby, or even, I know you've seen your dog do it. Sometimes I see Mocha just looking at me and I can just tell she's working the thing out, and usually what she's trying to work out is how she can get, me to give her more food, basically. It usually has to do with food or belly rubs. That's pretty much Mocha's life, right? Or maybe going outside, but you can just kind of see the wheels turning. But all of that thought, all of that processing, all of that taking in of the information, which is good. I'm not in any way diminishing how powerful and important that is. But with all of that, none of it means anything until you do something with it. And the same thing becomes true. I work in book space. I work with authors. And although, we do have a process for helping you write your book, I almost came on today. I almost did my live based on how much do you think you should pay right now today? March 19th, 2026. How much do you think you should pay to write your book, to get it written and edited and ready to be published? Not the publishing part, just the whole writing. Whether you do it yourself or you pay a ghostwriter or whatever. And I almost did the whole post on that today. And I was like, well, yes, but what you focus on grows. And I don't really want as much. I'm here to help you. If you need help putting that out there, I absolutely can. But I want to help you see that getting that thing, I didn't want to focus on the study, on the preparation. I wanted to focus on the doing today. Because you can write. I've met people. I met one person who, I swear they probably have a book that's about the size of a trilogy of War and Peace. So, War and Peace is like about 600 pages. And, they're what they already have written. And they weren't done writing. They have several thousand, possibly even as much as 10,000 pages that are written. And they still don't feel done. I know a lot of people that spend a lot of time, researching and developing the characters and getting all the names for them and all the places and all the stuff and putting it all together. But at the end of the day, all of that is preparation. So is the writing. I don't want to diminish how important it is to edit your book and like it and be able to read it and not feel as though it's not right. Okay. But how do I say this the right way? But in the end, until it's out there and available for somebody, it's doing no one any good. Doesn't matter whether there's 1,000 typos or there's a nothing. Until you put it out there, it is, it is literally nothing. It doesn't exist. Thank you, Ender. I appreciate that. So we need to do the thing. Okay, so we pull the trigger, we publish the book in whatever format, traditional published, self-publishing, hybrid publishing, any of those kind of things. But then what is our plan to use the book? Are we going to put it in the swag bag at events like I did last week with the ebook for the Art of Expansion book, which is my 41st book now? There was a collaboration book that I was in with the other speakers at Art of Expansion. Are we going to, run a campaign? How are we going to get the reviews? More than anything else that you're going to do with your book, the number one thing you need is current, constant, and ongoing reviews for your book. Because the first thing a person's going to do with any product, good, or service is they're going to look at what are other people saying about it. And so when you don't have reviews, that's bad enough. Oh, thank you, Ender. I'm glad that this is resonating with you. When you don't, when something doesn't have any reviews, we totally question that. When it has only a few reviews, we're like, I wonder. It's a lack of trust. When it has reviews, but they're all old, whatever. Again, I work in book space, so I'll use books as an example. When the book came out 2 years ago and it got 100 reviews 2 years ago, but nobody's reviewed it since, makes you think, probably nobody's really buying the book. Or you look at the bestseller ranking, you look at it and this book is 2 years old, but it's still ranking. It's like, oh, wow, look at this book. It's still number 25 in its category. And it's, in the top 100,000 on all the books, all the hundreds of millions of books on Amazon. And you're like, how come then nobody said anything about it in the last couple of years? Obviously people are buying it. Is it not making enough of an impact that people want to continue saying things about it? What is that? And so we need to have a whole plan for how we not just do the thing, but we really then promote it. Okay. All too often, and we've all made the mistake, me too. Okay. So this is not a judgment thing, but all too often, the first thing that falls off is our marketing budget. Things get tight and we stop doing our marketing. We stop, buying our Facebook ads or paying for our marketing team, or, paying to have our videos edited, or, even the things that don't cost actual dollars, but are more payment in time. We don't invest our time in continuing to put new podcasts out there, or continuing to do, live content, or even, posts. We don't invest the time to really look at it. And then AI comes in and it makes it even easier. You can have AI. I have a friend of mine, Molly Mahoney, has a whole program that she's written that's a custom GPT that'll allow you to write 6 months of your posts in about 20 minutes or less. Depending on how well you have your information collected, you could probably do it in about 5 if you already know what she's going to be asking in the different questions around the course of that. And it'll pop out then a spreadsheet, and it'll tell you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, week 1, and you'll have the next 2 months worth of posts, all of them, and they'll be on brand and all that kind of stuff. It's garbage in, garbage out. You put in good stuff, it's going to give you good stuff. You put in bad stuff, it's going to give you bad stuff. So we can often fall into the trap because that tool makes it easier, that we're not investing the right amount of time in the things that we need to continue to do to promote ourselves. That's why you have people like Gary Vaynerchuk that are talking about 60 to 100 posts a day, because they know how easy that content is. So you go back to Molly's custom GPT and it writes 60 posts. Now you're at a place where you need to do that every day. Now you need to be looking at, is there a system that I can upload those into? And they've kind of removed some of the usability of that. So then you got to type them all in. How long is that going to take you? Or how long is it going to take an assistant? Everything's time versus money. You either pay somebody to do it or you do it yourself. But we have to have that ongoing, consistent promotion. Okay, so I've harped on that too much. I went a little bit longer than I intended to with that. But I did it for one and only reason. And that's because what you do is incredibly, tremendously, amazingly awesome. You've got your book, your speech, your courses, all those things. What are you going to do specifically? What one thing are you going to do today? What is the thing, non-negotiable, you're going to do it, that's going to be to promote what you're already doing in the world today? I would like you to comment down below. I would like you to make a comment. Technically, if you're on LinkedIn, it's over to that side. Make a comment. Tell me, what are you going to, not what are you thinking about doing, but what are you going to do to promote who you are and what you do today? Please comment that below. I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. Please do like and follow me. I appreciate that. I love how we're coming together every day on this. I'm here for you. I want to see you succeed. And I've got some things that can really help you do that. If you ever want to talk, let me know. Until then, I hope you're happy, safe, warm, and loved, and that you have an incredibly great week.